Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got really just an overview, just kind of a show and tell of a knife that I have already reviewed on this channel. This is a Strider SNG, but this is a really cool variant of it that I just wanted to show. This is an SNG DGG, which means double gunner grip, and the gunner grip is this contoured sort of golf ball texturing that we've got going on all the way around the knife, which is really cool. But they have their proprietary, or Strider has their proprietary DigiCamo bronze finish, which is really cool. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure exactly how that's applied or what it is, but it's really neat. This is an interesting variant of the SNG, and on this channel I like to cover variants even if it's not really a full review. If you'd like to check out my full review of the Strider SNG, it is listed on my playlist under my favorite knives playlist. You can check that out. The Strider SNG is a great knife. It is one that I recommend, but they are very difficult to find, and people always ask me, how do I get my hands on these? How do I get my hands on these? Truthfully, they drop in a lot of different places. They don't drop very often. This one actually came from Monkey Edge, and Monkey Edge is probably where I'm going to suggest you guys go. I have no affiliate program set up with them. I benefit nothing if you guys go there and buy stuff, but that's the truth. That's where I see a lot of them drop. You just have to be quick. I don't know if they've got an email notification thing you guys can sign up for, but yeah, that's generally where they drop. This knife was sent to me by Knife Life, which is at k.knife_life on Instagram. Please give him a follow. It's because of him that I'm able to, or people like him, that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. It is also absolutely 100% because of my generous patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me right now. If you'd like to get your hands on some of these cool stickers and some other benefits, there's of course a link right down in the description to support me in the world to me. And please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Okay, like I said, this really isn't going to be a review. We're just going to talk about this a little bit. It's not going to be a super long video. It's really just for your entertainment. But I will go ahead and do some measurements for people who haven't seen my original review and want to just know, sizes and things like that. So this is the same as most SNGs. It's going to be, in fact, I think all SNGs standard size are about 8 1/4 inches overall. Blade length is 3.5 inches. Your cutting edge, because of that monstrous forward choil and sharpening choil, is about 2.8 inches overall. We'll go ahead and do some size comparisons. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the XM18? Because that's a pretty comparable. These are two of the knives in the Holy Trinity. Chris Reeve, Sebenza 21 or 31 now, but would be the third part of the Trinity. But yeah, it's about the same size overall as the Hinder XM18 3.5 inch. So you can see there, those of you trying to decide between the XM18 or holding out for an SNG, there's a good size comparison if you've never seen it. XM18 also coming in at 8 1/4 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. How about the Spyderco Para 3? Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. And last but not least, the Pickle Grip Mini Griptilian coming in at 6.75 inches overall. Go ahead and weigh it here for you guys real quick, just so you know. Doing things out of order because, like I said, it's not really a review. This is titanium and G10, and then we have a fairly thick stock. I think actually we'll go ahead and measure the stock. I always forget. They have fatty versions of these that are thicker in blade stock. This one here, I'm going to guess, is probably about 160 thousandths, 165 thousandths. So it's basically exactly the same as an XM18. But the scales are contoured and definitely a different shape. It's definitely thinner in the hand than an XM18, and it's also definitely lighter, with the G10 on the front coming in at only 4.16 ounces. The steel on this guy, so for anybody who doesn't know, Strider uses a lot of different steel, a lot. And a lot of people, they base what a knife should be worth entirely on the materials used. That is not a good foundation for, what the price should be. The price is dictated by where it is made, how much it costs to make items in that area. In this case, the United States. It is very expensive to make a knife in the United States versus other areas in the world. There's also way more time that goes into something like this versus something like a production WE knife. And I use WE because they are manufactured in China and using a lot of the same materials. Titanium, right, premium powder steels, stuff like that. So the fact that we're working with G10, titanium, and in this case S30V, does not mean that this knife should cost substantially less. S30V is a fantastic steel. It is a powder form steel. It is very, very well rounded. It's basically just become, you know, last month's flavor. It's just not as popular anymore, but it is a very, very capable steel. Strider uses like, they use they used to use like CTS BD1. I think they've used M4. They definitely use 20CV. Honestly, there's probably a list of 15 different steels that Strider uses. These knives are absolutely meant to be used, and we have to remember that everybody who's picking this up has a different reason for picking it up, whether it's use or collecting it, right? To a collector, you know, you might want to see it in 20CV just because 20CV is like the hot steel that, you know, it really makes you feel good about the purchase. But in use, everybody has different things that they use their knives for. And Strider's, the SNG is 100% meant as a tool. It is meant to be used. In practice, anybody who's used 20CV extensively will find that, you know, yeah, and I'm using 20CV because that's the super popular steel. Yeah, it's super corrosion, holds an edge for a long time, but man, is it a pain to sharpen. S30V, a little bit tougher, still stainless, and definitely easier to sharpen, which is great considering it still holds an edge for a really long time. That can be preferable for a lot of people in use, and again, everybody's got different usage habits, so different steels will be better or worse for them. Personally, I like CPM 154 because it's even easier to sharpen. It doesn't hold an edge as long, but it's even easier to sharpen. So, you know, it doesn't really matter how much I'm paying for the knife. If I plan to use it, then I have my own preference in steel, many that I would choose over something like 20CV. So just keep that in mind. I had to look, actually, it was kind of difficult to find. It's just barely visible right there in that black. You can see it right there. It says S30V USA on there. So that's the steel. This was, to my understanding, I keep missing that. Sorry, we're at an angle here and I'm trying not to hit the camera. So I'm holding it awkwardly and I'm also sitting down, so it's difficult. The knife is actually very easy to deploy. As far as I understand, this was a Monkey Edge custom or Monkey Eggs. I almost said Munchy Edge and then I said Monkey Eggs. Monkey Edge. My God. Monkey Edge exclusive or Monkey Edge custom. This is a knife that they did specifically for Monkey Edge. It was listed there. You can actually go find it if you type in SNG DGG and then DigiCamo. It'll pop up on Monkey Edge that it originally went for about 500 bucks, which makes sense. Now on the secondary market, this will definitely go for a lot more, and that can be frustrating for a lot of people. People want to pick these up for, you know, the price that they generally come in at. They're just not very available. And I wish that they were more available. They're not. They probably won't be anytime soon. So you just kind of have to be ready at sites like Monkey Edge. And there are a few others, but Monkey Edge seems to be the most consistent, at least from my perspective. So anyways, this was a particularly beautiful one. And I really like textured titanium. And I think, you know, my love for that probably came from the very first time that I saw the ZT0560, which has the textured, it's very similar golf ball textured titanium on the lock side. And we generally don't see textured titanium on the lock side. It's usually smooth like this, like on the hinder, or maybe it's got some micro milling. I really like how this looks, and I really like that it's continued to the other side. I gotta be honest, I always look at Striders and I think, man, I wish they were full titanium because I really don't want all one side G10. But it does lighten it up, which is a huge benefit for a lot of people, so it is what it is. I'm trying to imagine how awesome this would look if both sides were titanium and they were both textured. Did I mention DGG means double gunner grip? I think I did. Anyways. Yeah, this looks really nice. All the edges, everything, it's like usual. Strider does a great job knocking everything down, making it super ergonomic. It's very, very smooth. I mean, these knives run on phosphor bronze, so you're not going to get really the same type of fall shut action that some people want in their super expensive knives. It's not, you know, it's not the exclusive benefit to an expensive knife, but you do have really smooth action. The benefit, of course, to phosphor bronze being that gunk's not going to get in there and bog it down like it would on a knife with bearings, which makes sense in this case because this knife is absolutely meant to be used and probably does get thrown around in the dirt a lot by the people who, you know, own these types of knives. And I'm sure they do appreciate the phosphor bronze setup. Another thing that I always point out that I love about Strider knives is they use the external stops, which is great on a knife that like this that's made to be used hard, because if you are really working with it and kind of moving around as you cut, it does mitigate pressure away from the pivot, which is where all of the pressure goes if you have a standard just sort of stop pin setup. This is slightly more durable. I'm not going to say it's substantially more durable, and no, I'm not claiming that it has any sort of excess durability over the Triad lock. People always want to jump on me for that. Yeah, it definitely is. You know, considering all the normal things that you might throw at this knife, and even some tasks that are outside of the realm of normal, this knife will undoubtedly handle 99.9% of reasonable knife tasks. And it'll do that while giving you the comfort of these amazing ergonomic lines. This is really what made me fall in love with Strider, were the ergonomic lines. Yeah, the handle to ratio, I mean, like the ratios here in terms of blade or cutting edge to overall handle length, yeah, there's way more handle. But honestly, you know, it's like I always say, I mean, let's say the whole thing was blade, 3.5 inches. There aren't many things that I could do with a 3.5 inch cutting edge that I can't do with a 2.8 inch cutting edge. It's all in there. I mean, it's like I always say, I'd always take a forward choil just for that option to choke way up. The blade profile here makes it to where there's absolutely nothing in the cutting path. And these do get relatively thin behind the edge. These are definitely performers. I mean, if you're going to compare it to an XM18, other than the slicer blade, most of the XMs are going to be much thicker behind the edge. Unless, you know, if you get a skinny slicer, that's a different story. The skinny slicer on an XM18 is going to be a little bit thinner behind the edge, but it doesn't really matter. This is going to be able to handle pretty much everything. The blade is absolutely beautiful. I mean, this is steel, so I don't know exactly how. I mean, it looks like maybe they do the black parts first, and then I don't know how they apply the pattern, and then maybe the way that they achieve the bronze is, I'm going to guess, through heat. A lot of times when steel turns that bronzy color, it's definitely, you know, there's some sort of, you know, incredible heat applied. I'm not really sure exactly how they do it, but man, this is cool. I'm not really a big digicamo person, but I am a big fan of bronze, and it's pretty rare, you know, to see a bronze finish on a blade, and so it's just something that I really appreciated. I just really like how that looks, and I think that's neat that they're able to do that. The edge, of course, feels great. These are always done incredibly well. They do a good job of keeping this area from being super sharp. So manipulating this knife, opening it, just wheeling it out if you want to. Doing the thumb flick's actually easy because I actually use the external stop. The position of it, if you push it, whoops, again, we're at an angle here. If you push it more out that way, it'll work. You can also engage the thumb hole that way and do it just fine. And you can also do things like the Spidey drop or whatever. The reverse flick is exceptionally easy to do on this. I mean, these are great fidgety knives, but also they are really great for, you know, just opening conveniently in a pinch. This is a knife that is easy to manipulate with one hand, whether you're talking about deploying the blade or just disengaging the lock bar. It's just really easy. This is a knife that you can sit around for people who like to kind of fidget with their knives. This is a knife that you can easily sit around and just fidget with for hours. They're really great. Ergonomically, everything is great. The only thing that I always complain about is the position of their pocket clips. I think some of the Performance Series SNGs mount the pocket clips on this screw back here, which is a much better position. Carries it a little bit deeper. You do have quite a bit of this knife sticking up out of your pocket. When the clip is mounted up here, it brings it down to about here. The Strider PT is a great example of where that clip is, you know, should be mounted, in my opinion. But I have a, you know, my SNG Auto, which is the exact same profile and has the pocket clip in exactly the same position. And I carry it periodically, and it's just one of those things where as soon as I put it in my pocket, I'm like, look at all that meat sticking up out of the pocket, and then I forget about it, right? I mean, the pocket clip does a good job of keeping the knife secure in the pocket. It's just, there's a big chunk of it sticking out, so if you bump into stuff, you're likely to get some marks on it. But you take a look at this Strider, and it is beautiful, but the combination of the bronze finish, the Digicamo, the sort of weather-worn looking DGG pattern that's on this, I mean, it's kind of built to take wear in and still look good. So if you plan to use it, you know, Strider, really the character of the knife is really just going to, you know, continuously accumulate. It's just going to look better and better and better over time. As usual, the pivot, you can see all the way through. That's kind of neat. It is a sort of a spanner thing. A lot of people call that a proprietary pivot. I don't know if I really want to call it that. It's a combination of, I believe, a large hex, or could possibly be Torx. I'm not going to try and get into it. And then a spanner bit to get the pivot undone. And then you have very large Torx heads on the outside, which is something that I always appreciate. You can see that they go all the way through, which is nice. Sort of minimizes the amount of hardware, you know, if you're going to take the knife apart. But the construction on this thing is awesome. I always prefer, you know, a backspacer, like an actual separated backspacer, or standoffs to how they have this set up. But I got to be honest, I mean, the integrity of the knife is definitely there. I mean, it's just, that's just the way that they do it. And, you know, any questions of durability are sent right out the window. I mean, this thing is definitely built tough. People always ask me about blade play, lockup, things like that. I want to say maybe possibly older Striders had a bigger issue with this. And the truth is, guys, is Hinderers even used to have kind of a weird issue with lockup back a long time ago. I think these rumors still circulate, or people read them and assume that they apply to some newer Striders. Every Strider that I've ever held, every legitimate Strider that I've ever handled here since I've started the channel, they have all been completely and totally solid. I think the newest versions, and honestly, I think probably for a while, Strider knives have, you know, had that all figured out. Lockup geometry looks great to me. It's locking up at something like 35, maybe 40%. This guy is centering up absolutely perfectly. Can we see that right there? And there is no blade play up, down, left, or right. These do not have steel lock bar inserts, but as I've said many times, they don't need it. A carbonized titanium lock face will do just fine. In fact, in some cases, some people will tell you that's more reliable than a lock bar that's got a steel lock bar insert. You know, it's one of those things, right? There's pros and cons to every situation. This is one of the more beautiful Striders that I've ever seen. I'm not a huge fan of OD green, honestly. I think that I would have just gone head over heels for this if the front scale was black G10. That would be awesome, like if I was going for a weight saver version. But truthfully, if both sides looked exactly like this, oh my gosh, that is just wonderful. This texturing on the double gunner grip is really, really nice. And it looks like it might be super aggressive. Really, no, it's not. All of these little peaks and valleys and the edges of them, they're all nicely knocked down and rounded. So it does a good job of creating traction. Right, if you're left-handed, you know, the traction points on both sides are great. But it's not, the texturing is actually so large that it's not really a texturing, I think, that's going to readily fray up pants. Not nearly as much as like some of the peel ply textured material or the surfaces that you see on some other knives. I think in and out of the pocket, the titanium is going to be pretty kind to, you know, the inside of the pocket or the seam. I don't think that's something that a lot of people are going to need to worry about. This is one of the best, I mean, the Strider SNG itself, I think, is one of the best working tools in this section of the knife. Obviously, you can spend $30 to $50 right now and get a good working tool for a folding knife. But I'm saying, if we're going to talk about premium knives, we're going to talk about premium fit and finish, we're going to talk about, you know, frame locks and knives of this caliber, right? This is one of the most straightforward working tools that you can get, and it is good looking, and it's really easy to manipulate and really fun to play with. And Strider does an awesome job of, you know, doing unique things and doing interesting things with the finishes and the blade shapes and the texturings and things like that. It's just that everything is small batch, so you can't always get what you want. It's not like the, you know, Hinderer. You can't just go out and go, I want this blade shape with this finish, and I want this color of G10, and I want this color of hardware. No, it's kind of, you just wait around until the next batch of Striders drops, and then you got to be ready, and you have to decide right then and there in the moment if that batch of Striders has one in there you're interested in, and if not, you're going to wait a few more months, you know, because they're going to be gone within the day, usually. This is super cool. I would have been really tempted had this popped up, had I just managed to be browsing Monkey Edge when this dropped, and if it had a black G10 scale and they wanted 500 for it, I'd say there's probably a 70% chance I would have bought it. I think $500, again, people are going to go, $500 is just G10 and S30V and titanium. Ah! Again, the materials are not what dictates the price. They're a very small part of that. It's what this, you know, the culmination of a bunch of different things. You know, geographically where it is manufactured, right? How long it takes to create this, how many manual processes, right? There's a lot more manual process that goes into it. A lot more time and effort that goes into this. Is it a knife that folds? Yes. Is it a knife that cuts? Yes. Is it made out of materials that you can find in a smaller price range? Yes. But it is not made the same. This is, you know, Strider has their own unique thing going on, and I think a lot of people have attempted to kind of copy or, you know, reimagine the SNG. It's, I mean, there are a lot of different forms, you know, that you see in other knives. For example, the Spyderco Shaman, and the Bestech Shodan kind of is Stridery, right? But they're not the same. Strider has their own unique look and feel, and I gotta say, I mean, this thing does definitely have its own aura, and it is that aura is, you know, projecting much further and much brighter because of this DGG, or I'm sorry, this Digi-Camo bronze finish. It's just really, really cool. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that I can really say about this. This was just neat. It was just something that I wanted to talk about and just ramble about for a little bit. I hope you guys found this mildly interesting. The only links that I can provide for you guys are the, you know, like if you check out, I've got different different retailers down there that they all sell the SNG Auto, the one that I showed earlier, so you'll be able to pick that up. But if you want something like this, or you just want a Strider, you're probably gonna go. You're probably, you know, I'm gonna suggest going to Monkey Edge and kind of waiting for the next batch. But I think that's gonna be pretty much it today, guys. I don't know that there's really a whole lot more that I can say. Thank you again to Knife Life, or at k.knife_life on Instagram. Please give him a follow. And also, while you're there, give me a follow. Follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's little overview. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.